Hello, I'm Peter Stevenson.
I'm Waylon Fairbanks.
And today we're going to be talking about the football transfer window in England and the wider Europe. So, Waylon.
Mainly England now.
Mainly. Yes, well, that is our main area of expertise. So, today.
The big news is Luis Suarez and the fallout with Liverpool. What do you reckon?
Personally, I think he's gone. I said that at the beginning of the transfer period. I thought that there was no chance that we were going to keep him, especially after he came out and criticised the media in England. Things changed slightly during the window. He said some more controversial things. Then there was a positive spin put on by Liverpool saying that he was going to stay, he was happy. But then we've seen recently in friendlies and in matches, Steven Gerrard's testimonial, which was last week, that he just looked like he was sulking.
But I don't think the primary concern here is whether or not he's going to leave, because that could have been inevitable since the last Liverpool match. But it's the fact that they're selling to someone else who's a competitor for the fourth Champions League spot.
Definitely. Look, my personal opinion here is that we should let him rot in the reserves rather than sell him to a direct competitor. Obviously, you're going to have people saying, Arsenal supporters saying, yeah, but you're not going to finish in the top four. Liverpool's aim this season is to finish in the top four. Whether they do or not, that's going to be shown in the next 10 months through the season. But selling your best player, and he's proven to be Liverpool's best player last season. He had better stats than Gareth Bale, who people voted as player of the season.
Sure.
Means that he's invaluable, and if you sell him to one of your competitors, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I mean, he's certainly worth probably maybe 10 points for Liverpool, and he'd probably be worth 10 points for Arsenal. And I mean, the difference, there's a 20-point shift. But I mean, the question is, if you sold him for 40 million pounds, and reinvested that, would you have a better opportunity of getting the fourth place spot in Liverpool, rather than keeping him in the reserve?
It's kind of like a catch-22 there. You see, if there was a player of Luis Suarez caliber out there, then Arsenal would go for him. So by giving us 40 million in exchange for his services, we can't go out and buy someone else that can replace him. Because if we could go out and buy someone that could replace him, Arsenal would have done so before us.
But there's been opportunities. There was Mario Gomez. There was Higuain. I mean, there's been players.
They have, and they've missed the boat, Arsenal.
Well, but they could have gotten, for example, Mario Gomez signed for hardly anything for Fiorentina, less than 20.
That's tenuous, though. Mario Gomez, for me, isn't a £40 million striker. Maybe he's a proven goal scorer to an extent.
Sure, but he's a sure thing. I mean, he definitely would have probably chosen Arsenal over Fiorentina.
Possibly. Maybe he didn't fit into Arsene Wenger's his scheme of working things. Maybe it doesn't fit into the Arsenal ethos. Although I find it hard to believe that Luis Suarez, given his trouble with the media, trouble with other players, is Arsene Wenger's cup of tea, because he has painted this sort of young, promoting youth, promoting young sort of players that don't seem to cause too much controversy.
So bottom line, is he going to Arsenal?
Is he going to Arsenal? I don't think so, actually. I don't think so.
Even with the Players Association, even with sort of...
Everyone's been involved. I mean, everyone's had their say. Even John Barnes came out today and said something. Let me read it out. What has empowered him, Suarez, and the likes of Fernando Torres, who left Liverpool about 2 transfer windows ago, is they feel the team is losing, not because of them, but because of their teammates. Suarez is saying he needs to go because they've not qualified for the Champions League, but he was part of the team that failed to do that. The media and especially the fans have empowered players too much to make them feel that A, they are better than their teammates, and B, that they're better than their clubs. So he feels like he's better than Liverpool, and he wants to leave. And
I understand.
He can leave with every Liverpool fan's blessing, but not to a direct competitor.
What puzzles me is that, I mean, I know that everybody has been saying for the past 5 or 6 years, this is the year that Arsenal drops down. They can't they can't qualify for Champions League. But really, I mean, especially with the inconsistency of Wilshere, I mean, you really have to seriously question the project there. And
people say that every year though about Arsenal. And every year they sell in the summer. They've made a habit of every summer selling their best player.
When was the last time Arsenal was a serious contender for a title? I mean, when was the last time someone talked about?
Yeah, sure, it was a while ago.
So they're a perpetually fourth place team. I don't know why Suarez would want to throw in his lot with this.
Okay, he wants to be playing in the Champions League. It's the
glamour
and the exposure.
Okay, yeah.
No, they've qualified. I think the stat is that Arsenal have qualified in the last 16 or 17 years.
Yeah,
for the last 16 every single year, which is quite an achievement because not even Man United have done that. They got knocked out of the group stage quite recently.
Man City also.
But yeah, I mean Arsenal, if they feel that by getting Suarez they are improving their chances of finishing higher up, because if you look at it in the summer, every summer in the last few years they've sold their best players. They sold Van Persie last year to United. They sold Fabregas to Barcelona. They sold Henry. They sold Vieira, and yet they were still finishing in fourth place when everyone was writing them off. Oh, they've sold their best player. They're not going to finish in the top four. This summer they've not sold their best player. Maybe because they didn't have technically a best player, and they were more of a team.
It just strikes me that Arsenal is sort of a unique team in England because they're one of these elite teams that really has no ambitions or has no chances of a title. And I mean,
I think it's more complicated than that.
Don't players want titles?
Of course they do.
Especially Suarez caliber. And if he wants to leave, there's so many suitors. He can go to Italy. He can go to
the Arsenal subject is slightly complex. I think Wenger is trying to be a bit frugal with money so he can pay off the stadium and then work on building the squad that way. But also he insists on working with the youth development as well, which to his credit he has done, and he's managed to bring players through that he's sold for a lot of money and still managed to finish fourth. And I think a lot of credit needs to be given to that. Obviously Arsenal fans want more. Arsenal fans want to be...
He won his head half the time.
I know. It's beguiling sometimes for fans of lower teams, I'm sure, because they just want stability. Arsenal have stability, but they want to be challenging for trophies. And I understand that to an extent.
Alright, so let's talk about the Bale transfer to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
This sort of prolonged nothingness that's been taking place over
the last few days has been quiet, which is strange. I mean, it's a question of, are there negotiations taking place? What's happening? Is he going? Isn't he going? I think there's a sense of inevitability about it.
Sure.
I think at the beginning of summer, everyone not associated with Tottenham obviously was of the belief that Real were going to make their move, Bale was going to go.
Right, and and Tottenham sort of has, especially with Modric, they sort of have a precedent of holding on to players to the last possible second, getting everything they can.
Well, yeah, that's Daniel Levy. Yeah, of course, Daniel Levy does get top money. I mean, What made me laugh was reports that
Modric is going to go back.
Well, no, not that. It was Soldado was their record transfer signing, and do you know what airline he flew from Spain to England with? Ryanair. So he doesn't mind spending 26 million on a player, but spending too much on a flight,
£30.
He draws a line there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard reports that they want to wait until the Ronaldo's re-signing is announced, but I can't really see the logic behind it. That seems like it's going to happen. He's going to make 17
Maybe
million
they're trying to feed Ronaldo's ego. Maybe they don't want to sign someone else before he signs on the dotted line to get whatever ludicrous wages he's going to be on.
And to what extent do you think Tottenham is holding out to try to get some sort of player exchange? Because I initially read that Levy wasn't interested, that he just wanted the money and he was going to do what he was going to do with it. Now it sounds like, Contral, it sounds like there's 3 or 4 players without,
Well, undoubtedly Real have a strong squad, and if they offered players plus cash, I think Spurs would consider it. But obviously the manager needs to be okay with it as well. Andre Villas-Boas needs to okay any deal. It can't just be Levy deciding unilaterally what happens. But it's undoubted that Real have good players. Depends on which players they're going to offer, whether those players can fit into the Spurs squad. Villas-Boas' policy, the way he plays his football, whatever that is. So I think we'll see it happen sooner rather than later. The longer it goes on, the worse it is though for Spurs, because then that gives them less time to go and buy someone else in the transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, especially this year, it's almost mid-August and things are really coming to a standstill. I mean, most of the big players, most of the Cavani's, these sorts of.
It's funny how it happens, isn't it? Like you get a lot of transfers in the beginning of the window,
sure,
and then nothing goes quiet. A lot of rumor, a lot of conjecture, a lot of is he going, isn't he going? Oh, I'm not happy, and all of that, and it goes very quiet until late August when teams are scrambling around trying to get money for some of their players, trying to go out and buy someone else, and then prices go up.
Right.
So you're better off doing it early, getting the money, going and investing, and then settling your squad because the season's starting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a week away. The Premier League is a week away. The player hasn't done pre-season with you. Maybe he's done pre-season elsewhere, but it's not with you. He needs time to adapt to his teammates. He needs time to adapt to the league if he's coming from abroad. There's a lot of different factors that need to be thought about.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, so our third transfer personality is Wayne Rooney. What do you think's happening with Wayne? I read today actually that he's been training with the reserves.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Suarez. I mean, you have a class player. You have a player that is going to change the balance of power if they move within the league. At the same time, you really only have one suitor. I mean, Chelsea's really the only team. There was rumors earlier in the year that Real might make a bid for him, but
Arsenal, PSG as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's especially at PSG. I mean, they have two top strikers. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I think that Manchester United would be fine, getting him off of the books and getting sort of his attitude and his antics, especially Moyes. But I don't think
it's about messages. I think it's about trying to send a message.
Sure.
I think Man United don't want to send a message to the rest of the league that they're willing to sell one of their top assets to a challenger. But also, I don't think it's good for them to keep him about because it's similar to the Suarez scenario, like you said. His attitude can become poisonous.
Sure.
But clubs need to show players who the boss is. They're under contract. They can't just be throwing their toys out of the pram and acting like spoiled children. They have to honour their contract, and they're playing.
Yeah, it's a legal binding agreement.
They play for a big club. You need to honour that to an extent. And some of these players, they're not going about it in the right way. Obviously, Rooney has given in transfer requests in the past, and he wants to leave. I understand it to an extent, and I think it's for his benefit, and maybe
Man U's benefit probably, too.
And England's benefit to an extent, because I don't see Man United getting the best out of him. Maybe Ferguson can get the best out of him. Maybe Moyes can get the best out of him. But I still think that a move away, a refreshing
Ferguson's
situation.
I agree, and Ferguson's personality, I think, still. We everybody heard about Rooney trying to get out for a couple of years, but I think that Ferguson's draw kind of still kept him in, and also there's a history with him and Moyes. But the day that he was announced, it was a foregone conclusion. What I think is Manchester United have really struggled on the market.
Definitely.
They've completely failed with Fabregas.
Well, I think the problem there is that people aren't sure what the new project is going to be. Moyes has come in. He's gotten rid of all of the backroom staff.
Sure.
He's brought in his backroom staff from Everton. So there isn't. Okay, he's got Phil Neville, Ryan Giggs helping out, but there isn't that infrastructure that existed before, that people knew and they trusted that this was United, this is the way they work. Now it's kind of the Everton way at United. And a lot of people were of the opinion, even certain Man United fans, that without Ferguson there last season, there was no chance. With those players that they had, United would win the league. He instills a mentality, he instills a way of playing that the other managers can't do, and that's why he is one of the best managers of all time, if not the best manager. Sure. Although it pains me to say, as a Liverpool supporter, he is one of the best managers of all time. So players are wary of going there because they don't know what could happen. You said earlier that they've got a difficult start to the season.
Sure.
So if they fail, they lose a couple of games here. Do people have faith in Moyes to get them back up?
And how quickly are United faithful going to start questioning Ferguson's?
Obviously you're going to have the idiot fans that are going to, after maybe a couple of draws and a loss, they're going to start saying Moyes out.
Sure.
There were even some of them that were saying that when they lost a pre-season friendly. So if they're doing that with pre-season friendlies, you can imagine.
But it's not a healthy. and this is maybe the first time. I mean, especially with Ferguson being the staple that he was in the league. This is the first time in decades that you've had really the top three. All the title contenders with new managers, and I mean the sort of
it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting, but the exception is Mourinho. I mean, him being at Chelsea again sort of gives him more of a credibility with the fans and more of a leniency. I think that he could not win. They could not win the title. They could win nothing this year, but because of how glorified he is.
Well, I look at it in another way. I see that these three teams have brought in managers. Chelsea and City have invested in their squads.
Sure.
They've given their new manager money and said go spend it, and they've bought players. City have bought a host of strikers. All right,
Chelsea looks really good.
They got rid of Tevez. Chelsea got a couple of players despite losing against Real recently. United haven't. United haven't spent any, and they've been linked with players going, hasn't materialised. Fabregas, Thiago, nothing happened. Rooney wants to go now, so it doesn't look like there's a lot of stability there. Obviously, you say stability. Nobody's really left. Nobody's coming, so that gives you a certain amount of stability.
Though is, you can write him down for maybe 30
last season was probably the first season I remember since he was in England that he didn't have any real injuries and suffered no injury problems. And I'm sure United fans won't thank me for saying it. They'll all be touching wood right about now.
Sure.
But you don't know. You don't know with him. They have great strikers though. I mean, they've got
Welbeck.
Yeah. Well, okay. Welbeck has good movement. Maybe doesn't score as many goals as United fans would like. They have. They've got Rooney. They're still. For now. But you never know.
They've got a lot
let's
of
say Van Persie picks up an injury.
They're more about playing the flanks anyway. As long as they have speedy wingers, they have these kids.
Yeah, they've got Zaha, who they brought in from Crystal Palace. But
Ashley Young,
Valencia, Nani's still there. So you don't know. You don't know with United because it could just be the train could just keep going through the station.
Yeah.
It could be anybody's guess as to what could happen next season at United. But they have a difficult start, and I'm not convinced that if they do badly that they'll be able to get out of it. Yeah,
it's going to be also interesting how Manchester City seems like they've just been stockpiling really in the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of second strikers and wingers and attacking midfielders. And now that they've got Stefan Jovetic, it's going to be interesting to see.
It's not only Jovetic. They've got Negredo. They've got Dzeko.
They have Jesus Navas. They have all sorts of really interesting players. It's going to be weird to see. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to balance it all. It seems like they could play 7 people in the box.
That's the problem with big squads. Obviously, you say problem in inverted commas, of course, because every manager's dream is to have that kind of problem that you don't know what players you're going to play where. But obviously, when you have players of that quality,
egos too.
Yeah, definitely. Then that's a huge problem to deal with, and that's where good man management comes in. Certain people said that Mancini wasn't a very good man manager. And I think that was part of the reason that the owners wanted to get rid of him. I don't know how good Pellegrini is. I heard he doesn't speak English very well.
Yeah.
Well, not that that's a problem because half the players are Spanish speakers anyway.
Sure.
But it'll be interesting to see how the season goes.
Dzeko's going to play up top. It sounds like he's fallen much more into favour with Pellegrini. So
I've watched Dzeko. I never really understood why he didn't get more of a game for City under Mancini. He liked playing Aguero up top. It was his choice, and at the end of the day, he got given the sack. So
he is this. He's stubborn like any Italian manager.
Well, I think all managers are stubborn. I look at Benitez, look at even Rodgers. Wenger's very stubborn now. People are questioning his policies. Ferguson was the king of the stubborn. He got kicked.
But stubborn and successful is a lot easier than having the highest payroll in the world.
Look, you need to be strong-willed.
Sure.
Those jobs, you're getting a lot of money to do something that a lot of people criticise very easily. Like that's what we're here for.
Of course.
We're on the armchairs talking about.
It's symbolic, by the way.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think you need to be strong-willed to be manager in the Premier League.
But yeah, I'm sure. But also adaptability is important. I mean, it's just a fine
But
balance.
I think the importance is having a good team of people that you work with.
Sure.
Anyway, so let's talk about the first fixtures. Let's have a look at them.
All right. So we'll go through and why don't you give your thoughts and maybe a prediction on each one, huh?
Okay.
So first, Liverpool and Stoke City. Liverpool at home.
Yeah. First game of the season. So I think it'll be a win, home win. Mark Hughes, new manager of Stoke. He's brought in a few young players. He's trying to change Stoke's philosophy, from what I gather, which was a lot of rough and tumble. They're probably going to try and play a bit more football now.
Sure.
I think it'll be maybe 3-1 to Liverpool. Yeah.
Okay, then you have Arsenal and Aston Villa, who, Aston Villa kind of, they've really been talked up by a lot of analysts for this term.
I don't know, I'm not too convinced. They made a big deal that they managed to keep hold of Benteke despite him handing in that transfer request early on in the transfer period. I think Arsenal will be too strong for them at home.
Sure.
Although they do tend to struggle, as Didier Drogba has shown, against a big man up top.
Yeah.
I feel that Arsenal at home, another home win is really how I feel. Maybe like a 2-0 there for Arsenal.
And then you have Norwich and Everton.
Norwich, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Try and say it correctly. Thanks,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Norwich, Everton. Norwich have been lauded by a lot for making some astute signings in the summer. They got Van Wolfswinkel, funny name. Everton haven't really done anything. They've changed manager, probably changing style. Maybe not as efficient as Moyes. Mm-hmm. Maybe a bit more flair added by Martinez.
But I mean, Everton, they're kind of, I guess you could say, a poor man's Manchester United the last few years, in the way that Moyes has. I mean, he's a personality like Ferguson. Mm-hmm. He sort of has had that domineering effect on his squad. Yeah. Removing him, I mean, Martinez has been so at a few different places. Yeah. I mean, could they fall apart? I mean, could they drop down to the bottom of the table this year?
Very possibly. You could see there what you saw with Liverpool last season at the start of the season, where a new manager comes in, he wants to implement a new way of playing that maybe the players aren't used to, they don't know how to deal with. And as you saw last season, Liverpool started very badly. They had a very good 2013. That could also happen with Everton. There is rumour that Fellaini could be going up to Man United, sure. And if they lose him, he's a linchpin in that middle of the park. So if they lose him, that could be a huge loss for them, and they could be in danger. So my prediction for that game is a 1-1 draw, I think.
All right. And you have Sunderland against Fulham.
Sunderland against Fulham. Sunderland, Di Canio, bit crazy. I think he's gonna get passion out of those players. Fulham have made a very good purchase loan. Adel Taarabt. They got him off QPR. Linking up with Berbatov, that could be crucial to them. He's a very good player if he's played in the right way, if the manager coaches him in the right way. So both teams could, in theory, be surprise packages in the Premier League this season.
Berbatov, he's an X factor. Really,
he's hard to know. Talented player. Can sulk a bit. He likes a bit of a sulk sometimes when things aren't going his way. He's not going to work hard, but his ability is undoubted. Sure. Again, I have a sneaky feeling Fulham might sneak that 1-0 or 2-1 up at the Stadium of Light. Won't make good TV though. You won't see Di Canio sliding on his knees too much. Yeah. Unfortunately.
So then you have West Brom and Southampton.
West Brom and Southampton. West Brom again. They're looking strong. They got Nicolas Anelka.
Sure.
Proven goal scorer. Southampton as well. New manager at the back end of last season. Playing some good stuff. Southampton. Again, a lot will depend on transition, transfers, how things are going. Sure. The opening day can be very tricky, especially going away to a place like the Hawthorns. I think West Brom will just pip that, maybe 1-0, maybe 3-2. It could have goals.
Sure. Yeah. So then you have West Ham and Cardiff City.
the Hammers under Sam Allardyce. He's basically turning them into what Bolton used to do.
Sure.
I think West Ham will have the upper hand there. You know, they've just got a bit too strong. Maybe not ability wise, but a bit too strong.
They're at home, and I mean,
Andy Carroll, Diame, they're
sure.
huge beasts. You know, they'll just shoulder people off the ball,
right.
and score goals. Cardiff.
The scoring part is a little bit more iffy, especially with Carroll.
you know, you're telling me. Well, and Cardiff, you know, they've just been promoted. I don't think that they're quite ready to face one of the more physical teams of the Premier League. But yeah, so I think maybe an easy win there, maybe a 3-0 for West Ham.
And this, I mean, for me, this is probably the most interesting match
Mm-hmm.
of match day one, Swansea against Man United. I mean, that could be a big upset.
I think I agree with you there. You know,
Swansea's continuously adding.
They're prepared as well. Swansea are more prepared. They've played a Europa League qualifying match. United have had an indifferent pre-season.
Sure.
You know, they've had some dodgy results. They haven't convinced anybody, and Moyes is having a tough time.
Has he convinced his players? I mean,
That's a huge deal as well. I think Swansea could nick it.
Will Rooney play in that game?
No chance.
No chance. All right. Crystal Palace and Tottenham.
A London derby there.
Yeah.
But again, I think the Premier League team, well, Crystal Palace are Premier League, but they're just newly promoted.
Sure.
I think Spurs will be too much. You know, Gareth Bale won't play there either. I don't think. I mean, he could be at Real already, but I feel that Spurs will be too strong for Palace, even away, even in a London derby.
Sure.
It'll be too difficult for them.
So then you have Chelsea and Hull City.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I think
that's destruction. Yeah.
I think everybody knows Jose Mourinho returning to Stamford Bridge for the first time.
Yeah.
Chelsea at home against a newly promoted team. You could have five
Yeah.
easy 5 goals there.
That's a good one to bet on. So then Man City and Newcastle. That might be an interesting match too.
Well, Newcastle, or their new name, Nouveau Chateau, as some people like to call it. They're just a ridiculous amount of French players. I don't understand. Do you understand it?
Taking a page from old Wenger, yeah.
They're taking a page from old Wenger. Is that how you see it?
Supposedly.
I don't understand it. You know, I mean, not from the point of view from Newcastle that they want to buy these players, but these French guys. You know, they're living in France, and they go to Newcastle. Okay, I mean, no offense to Newcastle. I say that before
It's usually people
I
from
slay
Newcastle
Newcastle.
going to Europe to get drunk, you know, and take the ferries back.
Exactly.
Usually don't. The traffic doesn't.
I mean, maybe they're going because there's more of them there, and they're going to go hang out with each other.
Like an expat community.
Yeah, kind of. But I don't understand. Like the weather is unbelievably bad.
And I hear the wine isn't even that good from Newcastle either. So
They have wine. I thought they just drank brown ale. Yeah, Man City too strong at home again. I think Newcastle. Watch out for them though. They had a bad season last year. Good season before that. I think that's mainly due to the fact that Pardew wasn't given too much money to reinvest in his squad. But he has got some good players there. Cabaye, Loic Remy, who's just gone on loan. Cisse, Cisse, he's a good finisher.
it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can play together, though. I mean, this.
In theory, being French, they should get on better.
But the French clubs normally have this problem. I mean, Marseille's had this problem. You know, Lyon had this problem. I mean, sometimes the French clubs lack chemistry, even among the French players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you never know with infighting and jealousy and that stuff. I mean, I've been.
It'll be interesting.
I've experienced that myself, so you know, it'll definitely be an interesting season. Well, that's it for us today. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any suggestions, feel free to email or comment on the YouTube video. From me, Peter Stevenson.
Me, Waylon Fairbanks.
Thank you.
All right.